Hello, good afternoon, or good morning, whatever time zone you're in. This is Dr. Kamani from Lifting as We Climb Consulting Wellness Services. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. Thank you for tuning in. Today, we are continuing the conversation talking about ways to support Black women in toxic work environments. We have been having conversations about this for the past few months. Because we know, unfortunately, that Black women have higher rates of experiencing toxic work experiences. And so we're providing a platform for Black women to talk about the different experiences because we know that it is healing to know that we're not alone. We also know that it is healing to not be silenced because silencing is a form of oppression. So we are speaking up and we're speaking out and saying no more, okay? Special guest with us, Dr. Naomi Lawrence-Reid. She is joining in shortly. And I think, oh, hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
Good to see you. Good to see you. So thank you for joining. And I just briefly started, just talking about the purpose of this platform to talk about the experience, the toxic work experiences that many of us encounter, right? And interestingly, we see right now that, what's going on right now at the Supreme Court in terms of what our sister's going through in terms of having to confront people who are challenging her worth. And I'm sure so many of us can really apply or relate to that. And my hope is that we uplift her just like we uplift each other, okay, in this process. Yes. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Naomi. Naomi
Lawrence-Reid. That's okay.
Lawrence-Reid, yes. And I have a hyphenated name too. So yes. Yeah. So I'm going to turn it over to you for introductions.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, Dr. Norrington-Sands. I'm happy to be here. My name is Dr. Naomi Lawrence-Reid. I'm a board-certified pediatrician, and I'm also founder of a company that I've called Doctoring Differently, that's based entirely out of my own experience as a new pediatrician, fresh out of residency. Some years ago, almost 8 years ago, I started working as an academic pediatrician in a big academic emergency room. It was a very hard 3 years for me for many reasons. And, I knew that couldn't be my story. I knew even in my early mid-30s that this was not the kind of job I wanted. And I left. My boss, most of the people around me at the time said, "You're crazy to leave. Why would you leave? You're a doctor. You can only work in a clinic or a hospital. Those are our only options." And I just imagined a better life for myself. I imagined a life where I could live the way I wanted to. I could travel. I could dictate my own salary. I could work on my own schedule. And let me tell you, that is not typically that is not standard practice for physicians, for doctors. I'll tell you right now, I think the world imagines we have kind of freedom and autonomy to do what we want, and that is not the case at all. But I determined that I had the power to control my life. And I since have gone on to explore many different types of physician careers as a pediatrician. Sometimes I'm doing general physician work, sometimes I'm doing pediatric work, but I have loved the way that I've worked. It's been almost 5 years now. I've never been happier. And now I've launched Doctoring Differently as a platform to teach other physicians how to do the same.
Awesome. So I want to comment on a lot of different things you said, right? So the first thing you said was, you were in a situation and you were like, is this it? Like, I worked this hard to get here. This cannot be all, right? And I know that I have felt the same way. I'm sure many Black women have felt the same, like, wait a minute, I've put too much time and energy to get this degree, right? And to have this type of experience, that's not okay. And then you said, you know what? I deserve better. I can see a different vision for myself. But you talked about the naysayers, right? The dream killers. Yeah. And they were like, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. But you're like, you know what? I'm not listening to you. Right. So I'm still going to do what I need to do because I know what my higher purpose is. And I want to live a life that's more aligned with how I want to live. Absolutely. And so, yes. And so when you did that, you not only took yourself out of the situation, but you're helping other physicians do that as well. Absolutely. In terms of having that freedom. And it's so funny because I was just thinking about as you were talking talking, one of my good friends said, I just want to practice without shackles, right? So I want to be able to do the work that needs to happen without feeling like somebody's shackling me or oppressing me in doing the work. So
Exactly.
I'm wondering if you could just tell a little bit more in terms of what was that experience like when you were there? Like, how did you know, like, this is not for me. I need to get out of here. How
Sure.
did you know that?
Well, I'm going to give an example. I'm going to give, there is a last straw moment, but as with most last straw moments, it was preceded by a whole lot before that.
Yeah, a lot of build
So
up.
it wasn't just one thing.
Yeah.
As I described, I'm a pediatrician. I was working in an emergency department. I thought that maybe I would have a career working as a pediatrician in a pediatric emergency department. You know, a lot of times, if you're bringing your child to an emergency room, it may not be a pediatric emergency specialist. It may be kind of a
Hmm.
general emergency specialist.
Right.
But I loved kids. I was, already on that path and thought that maybe a life in the emergency room would be for me. So
Mm-hmm.
I started a job there, and I learned a lot about myself. I started that job. I was 31, I believe.
Hmm.
And I quickly learned that, you know what? It is a hard life. Let us give our hats off to all of our emergency specialists, because it is nights, it is weekends, it is holidays.
Hmm.
The emergency department does not close ever.
Right.
But I think we've gotten to a place, and this is a lot of my platform. Physicians really do not have a lot of protection, and it's not physicians dictating healthcare anymore. It is hospital corporations, it's insurance companies,
Mm.
it's pharmaceutical companies. So again, physicians
Mm.
really do not have a lot of power. And surprisingly to most, pediatricians actually make the least. We earn the least amount of all doctors in all
Wow.
salary scales. It's always surprising to people who aren't in medicine to hear that, but
Yeah.
it's very true. And there are a lot of reasons for that, I believe, and I could get into those another time. But at this point, I'm looking up and I'm thinking, I'm working nights, I'm working weekends, I'm working holidays.
Ooh.
I will tell you, I'm very transparent about salaries. I think that, there's a lot of, we're talking about pay disparities and gender gaps. I was my starting full-time salary as a physician was $125,000 a year.
Hmm.
I had over $200,000 in educational debt, right. So breaking all that down, I barely could afford to make my loan payments, pay my one bedroom rent, and my Corolla car payment. As a doctor, as a fully trained
You're
physician.
working to survive,
Yes,
basically,
yes,
and
paycheck to
pay your
paycheck,
loans back.
truly. And
Yeah.
and again, there was no room, for negotiation or for increasing rates. And it was one of those like, oh, you're not here for your patients, you're not here for your children, for these kids. And it's like, I can be the best doctor they've ever had, and I can still demand to be paid more. But I think
Right.
a lot of physicians feel like you can't have both, when really both
Mhm.
things can be true. So
Right.
it was 3 years of feeling very underappreciated,
3
overworked.
years.
Almost 3 years I
Ooh.
worked there. And it was, because at the time it was like, well, this is, you get to work here, you get to work at this hospital, you're welcome.
Uh,
It was a lot of that
uh,
kind of gaslighting
uh-huh.
feeling.
Uh-huh.
And then ultimately, so there was a small office in the back room
Hmm.
where we chart as doctors in this
Okay.
emergency department.
Yeah.
And this one had 2 desks, 2 chairs. I go in one day, and the armrest of one of the chairs is broken off. And I look, and and there are just shards of steel coming up. And I look, there's a little post-it that says administration is aware, they're handling it. I'm thinking, okay, I do my
Uh-huh.
shift, I see patients, I do my notes in the back, I'm doing this so that I'm not getting impaled. And I go. And I'm imagining, okay, next time, I'm sure someone is at Office Max right now getting us new chairs. I come back a few days later for another shift. And instead of a new chair, there were diapers wrapped around those shards of steel.
No,
Yes.
no.
Yes. I have a
Diapers?
photo. I show it often. I have the photo. Yes. And in that moment, I knew that was my worth and value to the department. That was my final
Wow.
straw moment. That was my final straw moment. So I truly knew in that moment that was when I needed to uh, find a life that fit me,
Right,
and gave me the respect that I deserved, that I had earned,
right,
that
right.
I think every employee deserves to earn.
Yes.
And I submitted my letter of resignation that night.
No way. That night,
That night.
you're like, I'm done for real.
Yes, but again, it was that letter was already sitting in my drafts file in my inbox. So just so you know, again, it was the last straw. My mind had been turning for a while,
Yes.
but that one sent me pushing the send button.
Wow. So, what's so fascinating is that you talk about knowing your worth. And that's so important for us as Black women because when all these things happen to us and make you question, you talk about the gaslighting and all that happens. If you don't know your worth, then you can go into the cycle of like questioning yourself and, oh, I'm just going to just wait it out or but when you know your worth, you're like, no, I deserve better than this. And if you can't recognize my worth, I need to go somewhere else who does, or I need to create my own. Okay.
Correct. Exactly. Exactly. The only way to
Exactly.
guarantee your happiness is to create it. I'm a big fan.
Exactly. I completely agree. I completely agree. So can you tell the listeners a little bit more about the gaslighting? Like, how did you know it was gaslighting? What were they doing?
Hmm.
Because the insidious part of gaslighting is that sometimes we fall into it and
Hmm.
then we start questioning ourselves. We're like, why do I feel this way?
Hmm.
So can you tell the audience, like, how did you know it was gaslighting and what was happening?
Sure. So, this goes to something, excuse me, something I say often, that is, you almost don't know where your boundary is. At least I didn't. I didn't know where my boundary was until it was breached. Now, I think that's part of the nuance of being an adult here.
Uh-huh.
When we're younger, we're like, that's my line. Like, if they ever did that, I'm out of here. Okay, that could be fine. But there's so many other things that don't make you feel good even before that.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
would have never thought, if you'd asked young, fresh, new doctor Naomi, what would make you quit a job, your first real doctor job, I probably wouldn't have said, oh, the administration fixed the chairs with diapers. Like, I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have known. But I got there, and on the heels of a whole lot of other things, I said, nope, that's not how I'm living. That's not what I've
Right.
worked so hard for. But the gaslighting. So, you know, again, I talked about the salary. I talked about kind of feeling like I deserve to be making more. I deserve to be earning more. I deserve to have autonomy over my schedule,
Yeah.
and over my life. And
Yes.
then, but that was inside of me. But I was being told by administration, no, no, you can't. Nope, nope, you can't have that. Or nobody has that. Or, that's not possible as a pediatrician. That's not possible where you are in Southern California. That's not possible. To which
Mhm.
I just said, I just feel like it should be, though. Like, I just
Right.
feel like it should be.
Yes.
And so, there are a number of, we have to, as physicians, especially in emergency rooms, put in our requests for time off, especially in a place that's open 24 hours a day. There felt like there was just so much, there was no transparency. There was a lot of, oh, you requested it. Oh, we can't. Nope. You got to work that time anyway. Yeah, it was a
What?
lot of that. And again, we're physicians here. We want to believe that we have autonomy and control, and we truly did not. And
Wow.
so, a few months before the infamous diaper incident, I made an appointment with my boss, with the chair of my department, and put on my big girl pants, and for the first time. Again, and I'll just side note, no one teaches doctors really how to do this. We are not
Right.
taught to negotiate. In fact, I was taught, don't even try to negotiate. Don't even try to advocate for yourself. It's not possible in these big hospitals. I know. I'm telling you,
Horrible.
it's a
Accept depression. Accept
right.
it.
Right. It's so many people have no idea that's
Uh,
what physicians are being taught, and our compensation has slid so low that paying loans back is often not even really feasible or possible. But I made an appointment with my boss, and had a tough conversation that I just was not happy, and I was really considering exploring other avenues. I, at the
Uh-huh.
time, was not married. I didn't have children. And I thought I could do travel doctoring. I could do other things that I'd heard about, but no one
Uh-huh.
really talked about. But my
Uh-huh.
personality is kind of like, hey, let's try it. What's the worst
Yeah.
that could happen? Um,
This is the worst right now that I'm
right.
in.
Right. This feels
Exactly.
like the worst. So
Right.
I am going to see if there's other worst, because let me tell you, if I can do this, I can probably do anything.
Yes.
So I went, I expressed my unhappiness, and she told me, it was unfortunately a woman, she told me, this is the best job you'll ever have. And you're lucky that you get to work here, with the undernote
What?
being you're lucky I let you work here. And then
Wow.
she said, you'll be back in a year begging for your job back. She said,
No way.
you'll be back begging me for your job back. That was over 5 years ago that she said that to me.
Wha-
I've not been back. Just if we're keeping a scoreboard here, I've not begged for my job back.
Right. Right. And you can guarantee, say, this is not the best job I've ever had. This is now the best job I ever had because it's my
Correct.
own job, right? I
Yes.
create my own thing.
Right.
So how degrading for
Yeah.
her to say
Yeah.
that to you. It's kind
I
of
will
like,
say,
I'm putting you in
yes.
your place.
Exactly. And I will say, I mean, for anyone who has had a partner, a toxic partner, and gotten out of a relationship, it felt like the same script. It was the same script of, I'm the best you'll ever have. You'll never have anyone as good as me. And you're like, oh, wait, that can't be possible, because this is terrible and I don't feel good when I'm here. So it felt very, very, very similar to that.
Wow.
But yeah, that I will say, given my personality, again, I kind of just didn't know that was a boundary, but that was a boundary. And I thought, I don't like your tone, and I don't like how I feel here. So it's very
Exactly.
clear. Again, I did not. I wanted to, a female boss, and I wanted to trust her. And of course, I had nothing
Mm,
else to go on.
yeah.
But in that moment, I said,
The point of no return.
and right. And quite frankly, in retrospect, I will say I feel like I've done a whole lot of personal growth in the meantime as well. I feel sorry for her. I think she truly was also limited by her own lack of knowledge about
Yeah.
all of these opportunities. I've done something, I believe, extraordinary in that I've explored a whole lot of things that we are not given permission to do,
Hmm.
that are very much available to us. But
Right.
because it's not the classic full-time real doctor job, it's been looked down upon, and all of these other things, that I think she fell into that category, that it really just, it was her own limiting beliefs that didn't even allow her to think creatively
Right.
about our careers.
Right. So the limiting belief, but then she tried to project it on you,
Absolutely.
right? And that you should just settle for whatever she's saying.
Right.
And, that's an example of a leader who's not really a leader, right?
Right.
So this is somebody who's just trying to maintain status quo, somebody who's not trying to support your growth. You better stay here and stick it out, and you better like it.
That's right.
And the fact that someone would do that, and it always like throws me off when I hear about people in the medical field or mental health field, and they have supervisors who are oppressing them. And I'm thinking, aren't we in the field to help people be healthier, right? But you're oppressing people that are supposed to be doing the work. So that's always kind of like what is going on here. And I'm also wondering if you could talk a little bit about, it sounds like it was kind of like a disillusionment, right? So that you had worked so hard to become a medical doctor, and this was your dream. And so you get into this dream job, and you're like, this is a nightmare. This is not a dream.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about, you talked in terms of you didn't recognize your personal boundary, but when it was there, you're like, no, I'm not having this, right? So as you were going through that, as you were going through that disillusioning experience, what types of symptoms were you experiencing at that point where you were like, this is not sitting well with me?
Um, let's see. Well, I think probably the most acute was I dreaded going to work. I dreaded going.
Yeah.
I I did not, I think we can all get that feeling that it's like, oh, we have to work tomorrow. Oh, we got to work
Yeah.
in a few hours. Oh, I got to get in the car. Oh, I got to
Yeah.
drive there. I got to park.
Yeah.
I got to walk in, and then I have to be there.
Whole thing.
Every step is just like,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah.
And I will say, it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good. I didn't, and it really got to the point where I didn't see a vision. I didn't see hope. I'd gotten all of my, every year, high school, college, med school, residency, it's always like the next is going to be better. The next is going to be better. And then I arrived at the pinnacle. And I said, oh no, this can't be this. What they're saying to me, I don't believe. And, I was very blessed to have the mother that I did who put inside of me every day that I deserve to have what I want and I deserve to live the way that I want. And I was fully capable of creating the life that I wanted. And I didn't need to rely on even the large medical industrial complex, which is so intimidating to some and feels so immovable and such a fixture. And I even looking at that, I just said, no, I don't want this. And I think for many physicians, we think that that's all, we're not real doctors if we're not in those big institutions, if we haven't been validated by these large institutions. That is not the case. Yes. I know I'm giving a lot of people insight into kind of the physician mind, but it's very true. I think we're a very stoic bunch. We keep our displeasure very close to the chest. We're not very vocal about our dissatisfaction and unhappiness with almost most parts of our jobs right now. And let me tell you, I started this whole career in 2017. So a whole nearly 3 years before 2020. So you can just imagine what it has been like in the past 2 years for, full-time medical professionals. I have heard of, salaries just being cut, mandatory vacation, all these things, no protection, lack of PPE, and all of those things that really, I think, have truly crystallized a lot of dissatisfaction that had been going on for a long time.
Yeah. So you're speaking truth in terms of the experience, right? You're taking us behind the scenes in terms of what it's like to be a medical doctor. And I think it's helpful just in terms of for us to see across the board for Black women that we just experience so much different toxicity, right? And it's important for us to think about how are we healing in this process too. So what I'm wondering in terms of, because I want you to speak specifically about this too, right? Because I think what happens to a lot of us is that we get in these environments, we dread going to work. I call it like the 5 o'clock Sunday blues. It's like, oh my God, the weekend's about to be over. I don't want to go back on Monday, right? So you dread going to work every day. And so part of what keeps us there is not only the naysayers, you need to stay there, right? This is a good job, all that. The fear, right? So I'm just wondering, and I'm sure many people are curious, when you put in that resignation the same day about the diaper wrap thing, was there any fear involved with you making that step?
A little. I can't say I didn't have any apprehension. I can't say that. Again, I didn't tell you my whole story. I moved to Southern California I was training in New York City at the time. I didn't know anyone. Again, my personality is just kind of like, I go where I want to go. I'll make it happen later. I'll figure out what I need to figure out later. So again, I do have that personality that it's like, I've got me, therefore I have enough.
I love it.
I do have that. And again, at that point, I just thought, I'm a doctor. Like, I can get a job. Like, I can do something else. It's okay. Which I'll tell you again, hard for a lot of doctors to believe. We like our assured steps. This, I won't start that until I have this and all that. And I did it a little backwards. And but that was me. I can say that, yes, there were the voices of, okay, well, how will I get health insurance?
Uh,
I have loans, I have bills. Who's paying my
yeah.
bills? Who's paying my loans? Nobody but me. So I did have those moments. I can't
Okay.
say that I didn't. But again, well, I will say, as I was going through the process, I did have a few very supportive friends who would say things to me like, you're so brave. You're leaving. I can't believe it. Like you're kind of gonna figure it out. I had a per diem kind of job lined up, and they would say to me, "You're so brave to leave." And for me, I will tell you, it did not feel brave. I did not feel brave at the time, and I can imagine to some looking from the outside in, it did. To me, it felt like my hand was on a hot stove and I was holding
Ooh.
it off. That's what it
Ooh.
felt like to me.
It was self-preservation. I'm just trying to
It was
protect myself.
survival. It was survival.
Wow.
So it didn't feel like bravery. I will say I
Yes.
certainly didn't want to take away. And I can, in retrospect, I'm like, oh man, girl, you just did that. You just left. Okay. But for me, I was just
Something
like,
that.
it's hot in here. I gotta go.
Right.
And again, I had enough, I think, self-confidence, self-assurance, to say, I'll be fine. I got me.
Yeah.
I'll be fine. I have education and experience and degrees and board certification that nobody can take away from me. And
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I need to do. And again, it just started on the path. I had to lose sight of this 5, 10, 20-year plan that I think a lot of us in higher education,
Uh-huh.
and honestly anywhere, are
Yeah.
conditioned to have. What's your
Yeah.
retirement plan? What's your
Yeah.
this plan? What's the kids' college plan? Da, 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 da. And that keeps us, a lot of those things keep us in bad jobs, these,
Yes.
pensions and the 401ks. And it says, okay,
Yeah.
yes, we're going to plan for the future. We're going to be mature and responsible adults, but you can also figure that out and do that yourself. You really can.
Absolutely.
And I hate hearing when I hear about people, especially physicians, who are staying in bad jobs for something as simple as benefits.
Right.
I don't want to say, I don't want to, it's simple, but in that you can also get those on your own. But
Yes.
it's truly something that even in medicine, we are not taught the money or business or insurance or malpractice of medicine. We're just taught the
Right.
medicine. And
Yeah.
and so one of the things I strive to do is teach physicians all about kind of all of the realms of healthcare, but mostly the things that they can do for themselves so they're not chained to these nefarious institutions.
Right. Ooh, change these. I love these nefarious institutions. Exactly. So when you think about, wow, you get this education with the sense that you'll have more freedom, right? So you have more financial freedom, but you end up connected and chained to things that are not hurting you, they're harming you,
Yeah.
which is so ironic that
Mm-hmm.
you are a medical doctor
Mm-hmm.
and you're seeking an organization that's causing you harm for health insurance. So an organization is probably leading to you having an earlier death, right? For
Make
health
it make
insurance,
sense. It doesn't make sense.
it doesn't make
Exactly.
sense,
You've nailed it.
right?
You've nailed it. Yeah.
Right. And guess what? You can get health insurance on your own. You don't have to rely on this institution that's harming you to do that. So I think it's important for people to hear that because, yes, they feel stuck. They feel locked in for the so-called benefits. It's not a benefit if it's hurting you. Okay.
That's
The
right.
other thing is you said, you really help other clinicians and you realized I can pivot and I have options. Okay. That's the benefit is that we recognize we have options. So many times we feel stuck and that's when our depression creeps in.
That's
I'm
right.
stuck. There's
That's right.
nothing I can do. It'll never get any better. No, no, no. And you have friends who are around you and say, no, just like I had friends around me. No, this is not okay. You deserve better.
That's right.
So can you talk a little bit more in terms of your healing journey and how you develop doctoring differently?
Sure. Oh, those are great points, great questions. So as I described, it started honestly with just taking 2 to 3 months off. right after I left that job, which let
Mm.
me tell you, I had a few months of savings to kind of float me. Again,
Okay.
had bills to pay and no one to pay them but me. Had a little bit of savings. So was able to do that, which honestly was what I enjoyed doing the most. And, a
Yeah.
lot of my family and friends are on the East Coast and in the Northeast and quite frankly, all over the country. And again, I'm an extrovert. I love traveling. And I wanted to see them. I wanted to travel and enjoy life. I wasn't going to
Yeah.
just have my 2 weeks of vacation a year. I'm
That you had to
taking
ask
long
for,
weekends.
right? That you had to beg for.
Not
Yeah.
okay. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I took, and we also, I don't know if this happens in other professions, but in medicine, we're taught, be wary, be careful about gaps in your resume. They don't
Yeah.
like to see that you've stopped a job and then there was a
Right.
gap and then here you're starting another job. And in my
Yeah.
mind, I'm thinking, no one deserves gaps in resumes more than physicians. You don't want a physician that has no gaps. You want a physician that knows how to take breaks, take care of
Yes.
themselves, take care of their
Yes.
families, refresh, recharge.
Yeah.
That is what makes a good anybody. But again,
Exactly.
someone who has your life in their hands, I want them rested and feeling fine. So
Exactly.
it started, my healing journey truly started with taking, for the first time since probably high school, taking, again, a summer off effectively, and just traveling and resting and relaxing and seeing who I wanted to see and people I hadn't seen in years. And then I came back and I started working per diem, which just meant they offered shifts and I could decide whether I wanted to take them or not. And that's it.
Okay.
I found, my own insurance and retirement benefit. I figured out a way because we are smart. We can
Yes.
read, we can do these things. I feel like most of my job is reminding physicians how smart they are, that yes, your medical school didn't teach you this. That doesn't mean you don't need to learn it or should know.
Right. Right.
But kind of separating, as I was it Mark Twain, something about don't let, education get in the way of your learning. That happens a lot. So began doing that. I picked up a small travel gig, a doctor travel assignment for a couple of weeks, explored that, thought that was interesting. I was told, or I'm here in Southern California, doctors can do Botox and fillers. And I'm thinking, my initial thought was like, I'm a real doctor and real doctors don't do that. And it was a surgeon, a retired cardiovascular surgeon actually, who told me that he started kind of an adjunct aesthetics practice on the heels of almost him retiring and selling the practice and wishing he had started it so much sooner. And
Wow.
just said, hey, it's no one's sick, everyone's happy, you'll be the most popular person in your friend group. And he was right. And so started taking classes, learning kind of the ins and outs of that. I've now kind of brought on some nurses who do the same. Actually Black female nurses, some nurses of color. So really, teaching our community that like we have access to these skincare products and if we want to as well.
Yeah.
So I started that. And really that was the most exciting part for me. I will say, in that time I actually experienced a real devastating loss. My mother passed away back where I'm from in Boston. Yeah. And I had to just drop everything I had going on here. I had to go home to Boston. I had to handle all the things you have to do. Single parent, I was an only child. And so it was, that was a good 8-9 months that I just truly had started all of these projects and was really kind of figuring out and finding my way with her support, which it was really nice to be able to do that. By the time 2020 happened, I was looking around, kind of was doing my still little projects here and there, my little gigs. And at the beginning, I'm looking, at the world thinking, okay, what does this look like for me? I don't know, because I don't have the protection of working in a big full-time institution. And, the assumption would be, oh, the doctors working there will be protected. Unfortunately, that was often proven not to be the case.
Yeah.
And by the middle of 2020, I'm looking at my friends and colleagues and classmates, and I thought, oh no, I'm the protected one. I get to choose where I work and when, and making sure I have the, PPE and things, I'm the one who wow,
Isn't that something?
Right. And into 2021, I discovered, I started doing veteran disability work as a pediatrician, because any physician can, and got trained and started doing that, and started working with lawyers as a medical expert witness and doing telemedicine. And so those are all of, and I still do travel doctor work. And so it's just been such an exciting time. I now work with Social Security, because Social Security needs physicians to oftentimes approve a lot of the federal programs that provide funding for people,
Right.
for medical issues, or children specifically for me. So I've just explored all of these things that I was not given permission to do, but just knew that there had to be, I was able to kind of create the world I want. And oh, by the way, I'm making, 4 times what I used to make. And I
Oh,
work
by the way.
I work whenever I want. It's just so fun. And by the
Yeah.
middle of 2021, I just said, okay, I really am. I didn't have a big picture. I just knew that
Yeah.
this was really filling my soul, and I loved that every day was different. Again,
Yeah.
my personality. I didn't want to go to the same place every day. I don't want to see the
Yeah.
same people every day. I
Yeah.
want to be able to go when I want and where I want, and be able to do this because I'm capable of it. I know
Right.
how to live. I don't need anyone telling me where I need to be every day.
Right.
So by 2021, I just looked up and said, doctors like school. We're good at school. I need to create a course and a curriculum to teach them top to bottom everything I know, everything I've learned in these streets, doing the work, doing the legwork myself, starting with, of course, those basic human needs of health insurance, retirement,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
malpractice insurance, and then
Yeah.
how to start each of these things, how to do it, how to maybe turn down your full-time job and start to turn up these other things. And let's talk about
Yeah.
negotiation. Let's talk about resignation, how to write a
Yeah.
resignation letter, how to do all of these things that we are not ever taught to do. Our medical training teaches us the medicine, and that's it. It does not teach us how to navigate a physician career
Yeah.
at all,
Yeah.
at all,
Yeah.
at all, at all. And I began a coaching course series last summer of 2021. I've done 3. My graduates are excelling. They are excelling, and
Awesome.
it has been truly like such a blessing and the journey of a lifetime to just watch people, do what I tell them to do, what they have made me to tell them to do, and
Yeah.
and watching them truly succeed and capture their own happiness again, and
Yeah.
reclaim their own autonomy, and saying, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have to work like this. And I,
Right.
thank you, the Zoom and the virtual capabilities. I've now physician students across the country, Massachusetts, Virginia, California, Alabama. It's been fantastic, and so I'm soon
Awesome.
going to launch a fourth session in just a few weeks.
How will people contact you to get a part of that session? To
Sure,
enroll?
sure. So they can find me at I'm on social media as on Instagram as doctoring_differently. I'm on Twitter, very active on Twitter at doc differently, DOC differently, and they can check out www.doctoringdifferently.com.
I love it. And what's so beautiful about this is that you are helping people reconnect to like the passion of why they even came into the field. And many times when you're in oppressive environments, like that light kind of just dims, right? But like it's rekindling and they're getting excited and they're living a life that they want to live and not waiting for permission from somebody else.
That's right.
Like, what? Like, I
Right.
don't need to ask you for permission to do anything.
That's
And
right.
so
That's
that
right.
is so valuable. So you have definitely lifted people as you've been climbing forward, right?
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. And it was, you said it. I like to say doctors don't need permission, but we need permission. We really do. We're the
Uh-huh.
personality types that, we are rule followers. We take this test and then we study and we take that test and then we do this and then we do that. We didn't really sign up to be entrepreneurs or kind of
Uh-huh.
figuring things out or dealing with
Yeah.
uncertainty. That's generally not the personality types that go into medicine.
Yeah.
And very few, private practice is just, those numbers are far dwindling. So
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. No one gave me permission. I will say
Yeah.
no one gave me permission. But now that I have discovered that you don't need it, but you do, I give it to other people. I'm just saying, hey, you can do it. You can do
Right.
it. So
Right.
it's been fantastic.
Yes. And Dr. Lawrence-Reid, what's fascinating too is that you are like embodying Dr. Angela Davis when she talked about, I'm no longer accepting the things that I cannot change. I'm changing the things I can no longer accept. Like, I'm not accepting this. And guess what? You shouldn't have to either. And I'm going to show you the way out. Right. And so really knowing that and believing that. And I just want to say, let the audience know that I met you. I saw your Twitter post. And I think one of your posts said something about somebody said that you could never have the life that you wanted in terms of being a doctor, right? And you're like, boom, I'm out, and I'm doing so much better, right? And so don't let anyone ever uh, make you think less than or try to dampen your dreams. Don't let anybody ever do that.
Right.
And you are a testimony to that. Like, nope, not having it, not having it. And I just reached out to you and I said, hey, I got this series going on. Can you please be a guest? So I'm so thankful that you were able to be available to be a guest, because I think it's so rich for people to hear, not only understanding a little bit more about medical doctors, because I think a lot of times we don't know a lot. We just assume that, oh, once you become a medical doctor, everything is just so easy, right? Like life is so easy, but it's not. And across fields, we are faced with challenges. But what's most important, as you said, Dr. Lawrence-Reid, knowing your worth. When you know your worth, then you're able to say what you will and you won't tolerate, and you're able to pivot, and you're able to create a life that's more aligned to the life that you want. So again, I want to say thank you. And again, let people know again how to register for your course again.
Sure, sure. So again, you can find me on any social media platforms. I'm most active on Twitter, and that's at DOC differently, at Doc differently is where I am. I'm on Instagram as doctoring_differently. But again, you can find me. My email address is drnaomi, Dr. Naomi, drnaomi at doctoringdifferently.com. And I'm at www.doctoringdifferently.com. So you can find me if you know a physician in your life. I am often reached out by spouses and siblings of physicians, honestly, who found me on social media, who
Wow.
their loved one is a physician, and they're watching their loved one, really struggle where they are, either
Wow.
in their training. And so I really hope I hear from med students and residents, but really the people I accept in my course are, either right at the end of residency or, they're full attendings and looking to pivot. And that's who I was, that's who I am. And it's really been an incredible journey. And I think that, I think we can all mostly agree that our healthcare system is very, very broken. And I just believe that physicians, are the last people who can fix it. And it really starts with us reclaiming, knowing that we have options outside of the medical machine in full-time clinical medicine. And that once enough of us are in and out, we can leverage our power together, and really help all citizens, help all people, because that's why we're here. That's what we took an oath for a reason. And we assumed there'd be someone else out here on the other side of our training, really advocating, protecting, and helping us. That's proven not to be the case, but that's okay. That's why I'm here. It turns out I did not think this would be me, but I'm seeing a problem, and I don't think there's anyone more qualified to fix it. So I'm here, and I look forward to talking to any physician who is in a tough place right now, thinking they're stuck, thinking that they have no options. I'm here to tell you that you are not stuck. You have options. Join me.
Absolutely. You have not only you have an abundance of options, right?
Yes.
And so that's so important to remember, and knowing that you are such you have really walked the talk, right?
Yes.
So it's not just that you're talking about it, like you have walked the life, right? And you can help people get out and live, like you said, abundantly, making 4 times as much as you used to. Right. So that's so empowering. And I just want to tell the audience, thank you again, Dr. Lawrence-Reid, for joining. and to tell the audience, thank you for tuning in. I will be back again next Monday. We will continue these conversations. As I said before, we will not be silenced. As Dr. Lawrence-Reid said, we will not be silenced. We will be changing the system and speaking up and speaking out, speaking our truth. I also want to let the audience know that I do have a job coaching program for Black women who are interested in leaving toxic jobs. It's in a way for you to deal with the garbage of the toxic jobs so you don't carry that over to your next opportunity. Because sometimes we need to process the grief of our previous toxic environments before we go on to the next one. So everyone, again, thank you for joining. If you want to see more of these videos, please go to my YouTube channel, Lifting As We Climb Consulting, Wellness Services. You can subscribe, share, and turn the notifications bell. And I just want to say to all of you, especially Dr. Lawrence-Reid, thank you again for joining and have a good rest of your day. Bye.